Well, thanks so much for having me. And one lesson I was reflecting on is that when you're starting a company and hiring a team, often you think that every member is irreplaceable, and it turns out that no one's irreplaceable, right? You have to move on. And I always thought of at the heart of TechTO was the great hosting of Jason and Alex. But with the great job that Marie's doing tonight, we're all seeing that, maybe they're not, so irreplaceable after all. So a great job. You're doing a great job, Marie. And Alex, thank you for that very kind introduction. I hope you don't regret it now that I just said that. So look, I'm thrilled to be here tonight to talk about what FinTech can learn from FitTech. So FinTech is all about financial services. FitTech is all about fitness. So who works in either of those industries, FinTech or FitTech? Some people, okay. Well, great. Well, I'm looking forward to diving into this with you tonight. So first of all, who am I? So I am co-founder and CEO of Borrowell. We're a company, and our mission helps people feel confident about money. We want to help people understand their credit, use their credit, and build their credit. Hopefully many of you, maybe all of you in this room have signed up. If you haven't, please do so. 1 in 10 Canadian adults have signed up and used Borrowell. That's almost 4 million people and counting, so we would love to have you as a Borrowell member if you are not one already. So what is so good about fitness apps, and why am I talking about fitness apps tonight? Well, who are founders in the room in any industry? If you put your hands up. So that's great, and kudos to all of you. I am not someone who believes that like 100% of your time needs to be in your company. I don't think it's healthy to only do one thing, but I don't think you can choose 5 things. I actually think the right number is 3. I think you can choose 3 things. My 3 things are, first of all, my family, and I'm really pleased to have my 11-year-old daughter, Aria, here with me in the front row. There are more F-bombs than I remember at TechTO. These are the things you notice when you bring your 11-year-old daughter to... So let's not tell mom about that, okay, Aria? So number 1 for me is my family. Number 2, of course, is building Borrowell, which is a privilege to do every day. And then the third sort of thing in my life is fitness. I love to cycle, and I love to run and do stuff like that. This was me last week. I was on a trip in Spain with a bunch of friends. We do a trip every year. And that's become a big part of my life. As I like to also remind my wife, it's less expensive than getting a sports car, less complicated than a girlfriend or something. So this is actually a relatively healthy midlife crisis. Because of this set of hobbies, I actually spend a lot of time using FitTech apps. I spend a lot of time in Strava, Training Peaks, Peloton. There's actually a long list. And I've learned a lot from using those apps about what we can do better in FinTech. And I actually think there's a lot that fitness and financial health have in common, right? These are complicated areas. There's a lot of sort of emotion involved. And in both cases, we kind of know what we need to do. The hard part is actually doing it, right? Like, personal finance isn't that complicated. You need to earn more than you spend. You need to save. In fitness, you need to get out there and work out. You need to eat well. But between the sort of simplicity of the goals, there's actually a lot that prevents us from getting where we want to go. But fitness apps, I think, have done a great job solving this problem. And they've done it with sort of two strategies. First of all, they do a great job of simplifying the complex. And they do a terrific job of encouraging us to move along the journey towards wellness. So let me give you a few examples. So the first example is, let's talk about chatbots for a second. With the rise of AI, there's a huge focus on chatbots. And in some situations, I think chatbots are great if you want to ask where your order is or something. But I think we over-index, many of us in tech, towards chat as sort of a mode. And I think that in many cases, chatting is more complexity than what our users want, right? By chatting, you have to, by definition, ask a question. So I think chatbots are not always the answer. In many cases, I actually think a summary, putting complex information, putting data into word form is actually much more appropriate. So this is Strava. Anyone use Strava to track your runs or your bike rides or anything? Strava is a great AI feature that's called athlete intelligence. You can't ask it questions. All it does is it summarizes your activity in a very positive and friendly way. So for those of us building in FinTech, I think a lot about this feature, right? We're trying to help people understand how their credit score goes up or down week to week. You can imagine that something like this in the personal finance space could be really helpful and interesting. And I think actually more helpful and interesting than a chatbot might be. So this is a great example of making the complicated simple. Another example, when it comes to data, I think in FinTech, we often think that sort of more is more, right? We've all seen dashboards like this for different products, and sometimes that's appropriate. If you're a power trader, you want all the information you can have at your fingertips. But I think for many of us, what we want is help simplifying data, not making it more complicated. And when it comes to fitness, there's tons of data. You can measure your heart rate, your power, your normalized power. There's 1,000 things you can, the rotations permitted on your bike. You can even get little power meters for your running shoes. There's a lot of complexity out there, but I think many fitness apps have done a great job simplifying this. So here's a great example. If anyone has a Garmin watch, Garmin has a feature called your body battery. And it's a very simple number. They just tell you from 0 to 100 how much, power is left in your body battery. And they sort of take your sleep and how much exercise you've done, and they put it into a simple number. And of course, we at Borrowell have built a business around this exact kind of concept, which is that somebody many years ago, not us, invented the idea of a credit score. And as imperfect as the credit system is, there's a certain brilliance to the simplicity of a credit score, right? You're taking a whole area of personal finance and boiling it down into a 3-digit number. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are so keen to find out and to track their credit score. So one more example here about how can we encourage people to build better habits. Well, I think the fitness world has really figured this out. Who's a Peloton user? Who during the pandemic was a Peloton user? Right, many more hands. Well, Peloton does something that many other apps do, and they reward you for streaks. When you've been working out day after day or week after week, they show you that you're on a streak, and they even give you little badges. The other app that is very famous for this, of course, not in the fitness space, but is Duolingo. Anyone a Duolingo user? Right? So Duolingo, people are like obsessed with these streaks. Right? Like I've talked to people who are like 100 days in, and it's like 11:30 p.m. They're like, I've got to do my Duolingo for the day. Right? So this is really powerful. So I think a lot about, and I think all of us in FinTech should think about, how can we use techniques like this to help people make the right choices? Like, congratulations, you're on a streak. This is the 4th month in a row that you've paid all your bills on time. Right? So I think there's a lot of really simple changes we can make when we look at the world of personal finance through the eyes of fitness. So let's all build apps in FinTech that help our users simplify and help them encourage them to make the right choices and be as financially well as they can be. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Fun fact, Andrew and I worked out of the DMZ at the beginning of both of our ventures 10 years ago. Anyone have a question? Over here.
Yeah, hi, thanks. This also came to me when I was going through Keith's pitch, is that there's so much data, and there's going to be more data, and these data will eventually sit in a place where it can become assets, and assets can be traded. So what are your thoughts on this vision of this data and these scores becoming intelligent and becoming assets? Did you think that far?
Yeah, you're absolutely right that there's tons of data in personal finance and, by the way, in fitness that's out there, and more is becoming available. And there's certainly a lot we can do with it. Those of us who are building businesses in this space. I think what I'm realizing though is that when it comes to creating user value, creating value for people using our products, more isn't always more, right? Like showing more data, and I could give you lots more examples of personal finance apps that have kind of jumped the shark, where you've got 5 different credit scores and 17 different dials going up and down. I think what we need to do with all that data is help our users understand what's most essential, what they can act on, and what they should be spending their sort of very valuable time thinking about.
Over here.
Thanks very much. Very insightful. I'm just curious, Andrew, how do you think the legacy banks, who've got infinitely more data than you have, obviously, how are they reacting to some of these changes on simplicity? Do you see them beginning to become more competitive as people? I mean, like people like you are doing a phenomenal job. For whatever you named, 4 million of us are on your platform. So do you think they're being able to change things and making it a little bit more difficult for players like you?
Look, I think there's lots of smart people that work at our large banks. I think it's always a challenge in an organization like that, where you have a lot of humans working, and these humans own the credit card, these humans own the bank, the savings account, these humans own the checking account. It can be very hard to create sort of a simple, unified customer experience in that sort of environment. So I think there's challenges. I think there are challenges in that environment doing it, but let's I wouldn't speak ill of them. Let's see what's possible. And I think lots of people that I speak to at banks look at fintech for inspiration, frankly, for how to make things more what I'm talking, boiling things down.
Right here. Thank you for the talk. I wear Whoop, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and I love it. You'd mentioned something about the credit score, where you said as maybe broken system is, but the 3-digit number is very important. And people, what do you think the simplicity does in terms of the negative effects of people don't vet where the number is coming from? But when I look at my strain, when I look at my recovery, I say, okay, my recovery is 50%. I don't look at why is it at 50%, or is it true if it's at 50%? What do you think that does to people going forward if the number is wrong?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certainly challenges in the credit system. You can have wrong information on a file. Someone else with the similar name to you, maybe their data gets into your file. So it's not a perfect system. I think if you're someone who is using credit scores for important decisions, like who to loan money to or who to give an apartment to, then you've got to be very, very thoughtful about how you're using that data, and you've got to use it responsibly. But I think if you're a user logging into Borrowell to check your own score, as you've done for the last 50 weeks or whatever, it is an easy shorthand. I think it is a simplicity that makes it useful and non-overwhelming. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Love it. Well, I checked in with Aria, and she gives you a 10 on 10. So good job.
Thank you. Well, that's very kind. I think.